When we think of Rome's enemies, we think of Hannibal, Attila, and the Praetorian Guards. But Rome has been around for 2,000 years ish. It's had way more enemies than just six or seven. Here's a list of 5 enemies of Rome who have been forgotten by the general public. Number 1, Hamilcar Barca. We all know Hannibal, right? No, not that Hannibal. That Hannibal. Well, believe it or not, Hannibal did in fact have a father, who also really hated Rome. No one knows where Hamilcar came from, but he was given command of Carthaginian forces in Sicily during the First Punic War between Carthage and Rome. Hamilcar had jack Sicily, so he simply wanted to force a stalemate. Hamilcar did a hit-and-run strategy in Sicily without fighting the much larger Roman force there in open battle. Carthage lost the First Punic War and so told Hamilcar to make terms with the Romans. The terms imposed on Hamilcar in Carthage were really bad, but he still had to accept. Hamilcar had a mercenary force. Carthage mostly had a mercenary force, in fact. And since Carthage lost so badly, they could not pay the mercenaries, and so they rebelled, starting the Mercenary War. Hamilcar was given command of the Carthaginian forces and managed to put the uprising down. Hamilcar then went to Hispania to conquer some land for Carthage. He brought his son Hannibal with him, who he made swear an oath to never be friends with a Roman. Wonder how that would go. He went there, conquered some land, got some silver to pay his mercenaries and the Romans, and then was killed during his campaign. Number 2, Viriathus. Viriathus was a Lusitanian rebel leader who fought for the freedom of Lusitania against the Roman Republic. Rome had just defeated Carthage during the Second Punic War and was like, let's conquer Lusitania, today Portugal. Viriathus was a shepherd boy, then a gangster, then decided to become a military leader. Rome baited Lusitania into a peace treaty and then went to massacre 2,000 to 3,000 of their warriors. Viriathus survived and became a military leader sometime after that. The Romans surrounded the remaining Lusitanians and offered another treaty, but Viriathus inspired his fellow Lusitanians that this was obviously a trap. They were so empowered by Viriathus that everyone made him the military leader. Viriathus broke out of the trap and for years dominated and defeated many Roman armies, famously using guerrilla tactics. Rome sent Quintus Fabius Maximus Servilianus, but he got encircled. Viriathus was nice though, and decided to let them go in exchange for freedom. Quintus Servilius Capio was sent to ratify a treaty, but didn't like the treaty, and so bribed 3 men into killing Viriathus. They killed the great defender of Lusitania while he was sleeping, and they didn't get paid, because Capio told them that Rome doesn't reward backstabbers. Number 3, Quintus Sertorius. Sertorius was a Roman who challenged Rome. What? Sertorius was born into a wealthy family. He was an orator at first, but then entered the military. He survived a disastrous defeat at the Battle of Aricio during the Cimbrian War and went to serve under a titan of his time, Gaius Marius. Sertorius was a trusted soldier during Marius's campaigns in the Cimbrian War. Sertorius supported Marius during the civil war between Marius's faction and Roman general and eventual dictator Lucius Sulla's faction. Sulla went to fight in the First Mithridatic War, and the Marian faction went to occupy Rome. Sulla came back and defeated the Marian forces. Sertorius became disillusioned with the faction and went to be proconsul of Hispania. While there, Sertorius learned of Sulla's victory in the civil war. He also found out that he was on Sulla's to-kill list. Sertorius couldn't get the support of the Spanish tribes and so went to go chill in Africa for a bit. Then Lusitania was being threatened by Rome and they asked Sertorius for help, which Sertorius agreed. For 8 years the Sectorian War raged in Hispania, with the rebel Sertorius going against Sulla's regime back in Rome. Sertorius became friendly with the locals and got them to join his cause through his charisma, his genius, and his deer. The Republic sent generals Metellus Pius and Pompeius Magnus to fight Sertorius, but they were defeated by him because, like Viriathus, Sertorius used guerrilla tactics. Sertorius defeated the Romans at several engagements. However, he didn't have the resources he needed, and was eventually starting to lose. Metellus put a bounty on Sertorius' head, which turned the once level-headed Sertorius into someone you would not want to share a drink with. Sertorius was assassinated by some dude named Perperna, because Perperna really wanted to take command. Perperna didn't have the sauce like Sertorius, and so he and Sertorian Hispania were crushed by the Romans. Number 4, Shapur II. The Sasanian Empire in and of itself was a major foe to the Romans, but Shapur II was one of its most notable kings. Shapur II was made king the second he came out of his mom's tummy, but didn't actually do anything until he was at the ripe old age of 16. At 16, Shapur went to subdue Arabia. Years and years ago, the Romans made peace with the Sasanian Empire, with the Peace of Nisibis being in favor of the Romans. Because of the peace, Shapur invaded Roman Mesopotamia and Armenia, capturing some forts in the area and managing to defeat the Romans in battle. Then the nomadic Kittites invaded the empire, and Shapur II had to go back and defeat them. He did so and forced the king into making an alliance with him. Shapur went to invade Armenia again after that. Roman Emperor Constantius went to Armenia to deal with Shapur, but then he died. He was succeeded by Julian the Apostate, who advanced on the Sassanid capital Ctesiphon and defeated the Sassanid force there. Julian couldn't take the city, however, and then he got killed in a skirmish. His successor Jovian made a treaty with Shapur, where Shapur got the Tigris, Nisibis, and Singara, and would now be allowed to do whatever he wanted with Armenia. Shapur couldn't conquer Armenia though. Shapur then began to expand his empire into India, and then died, with the Sassanid Empire in extremely good state by the time of his death. Number 5, Gaiseric. Gaiseric was Goth. No, I'm kidding, he was a Vandal. He became king after the death of his brother. The Vandals had been living in Hispania for some time, but they are weaker compared to other quote-unquote barbarians, so Gaiseric decided to move to Africa. He defeated a Swabian force before that. Upon leading his people to northern Africa, Gaiseric led his forces to defeat many Roman forces. After conquering most of the land there, Gaiseric would make peace with Roman Emperor Valentinian III, in which he would be a vassal. Then he went to capture Carthage, which is what he wasn't supposed to do. Carthage was pretty important for Rome, as it fed the empire. Gaiseric exploited that by selling food to Rome. Carthage became Gaiseric's new house, and he used the money from Carthage to build a fleet. Gaiseric went to invade Sicily, but failed. On a brighter note, Gaiseric took the Balearic Islands, Sardinia, Corsica, and Malta. Valentinian was killed by a usurper, and Gaiseric believed that that meant his treaty with Rome broke, so he invaded Italy. Gaiseric went on to sack the Eternal City. Gaiseric robbed the city so badly that he's responsible for the term vandalism. A few years later, Western Roman Emperor Majorian attempted an invasion of North Africa, but his fleet was destroyed by Gaiseric. The two parts of the empire tried to stop Gaiseric's terror, and they assembled a huge fleet. However, the fleet was destroyed at the Battle of Cape Bon, and the empires gave up. Gaiseric died in Carthage, ruling for nearly 50 years. He ruled for so long that Western Rome fell a year before his death. So that was my list. Rome has more forgotten enemies than just 5, so I might make a part 2. Leave some suggestions for people you might want me to discuss, and explain why I should be listening to your comment.